Hello and welcome to Inside Homebrewing. I'm Jay Thomas, and this is a bottle-conditioned oatmeal stout that I brewed up about 3 months ago. Been in the bottle for just over 2 months now. Anyway, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to capture the yeast off the bottom of a 6-pack. Probably take me about 2 days to get that all done. I'm going to take the yeast off the bottom of each of these bottles and put it into make a yeast starter out of it. It's going to get that yeast going, get it fermenting as a yeast starter, and then I'm going to be dumping that into an upcoming batch of it's going to also be an oatmeal stout, but just a different recipe. I'll show you how I do that. It's pretty easy, save you a few bucks on buying some yeast, and you get to drink your home brew. It also will work with most any bottle conditioned beer. A lot of wheat beers come bottle conditioned. If you want to take that yeast out of there, it's pretty simple to do. I recently used Cooper's Pale Ale yeast. It's a bottle conditioned beer. Used that off the bottom of a 6-pack of bottles. Made up a batch of beer, no problem. Good strong yeast. So anyway, I'll show you how that's all done. Here we go. So the recipe is pretty simple. What I do, normally I take 2 cups of dry malt extract and 4 cups of water. On this one, don't want to really shock that yeast. Been sitting in that bottle for a couple months. Just want to get it to start fermenting slowly. So what I'm going to do is I'll take about 1 cup of dry malt extract. A little more. Just over 1 cup of dry malt extract. I like to use the dark dry malt extract on darker beers. And then I'll take the same 4 cups of water. I'm going to heat that up to a boil. And then cool it off just like you normally make a yeast starter. Turn that up to high. And get it all dissolved in there. So I just get that to start boiling, move it off the burner a little bit so it doesn't boil over, and just let it boil for a few minutes. Stir it up once in a while. So while that's over there boiling, I'm going to take this bottle of beer. What you need to do is make sure everything's super clean. Take some alcohol, wipe off the top of that beer. Anything that's going to be coming in contact with this yeast has to be super clean. Clean off the lip, the top of that bottle of beer. That works. Then, a little more alcohol. Wipe off the lip of this. I don't know if this part is necessary or not with using alcohol on the lip of that, but just heat up the rim. Going to kill anything, make sure anything on there is dead. And I just pour it into the glass slowly. Try not to break loose the yeast on the bottom. Till you can see the yeast cut loose from the bottom, right about there. Leaves about maybe a half an inch of yeast there. Get that stirred up, knock it off the bottom. What I'll do then is just take another rag and some more alcohol. Put over the top of that bottle. That's going to warm up a little bit, get up to room temperature. In the meantime, that's been boiling a few minutes. I'm going to shut off the extract that's in that pan. Just get that shut off, and then cool it off. And down to room temperature, and then I can add the yeast from the bottom of this bottle, and the next bottles after that. I'll just do the same thing, add it to the yeast starter. See what happens. So I preheated the jug got that warmed up. This has cooled off a little bit, not much. Hopefully it won't break the glass. That's why I preheated it. It's a sanitized funnel, just dump that right in there. I'm going to stick that into an ice bath to cool it off a little faster now. Then I'll put a sanitized fermentation lock on there with no water in it. If you had water in it, as this wort cools off, it would just end up sucking the water down inside of there. Don't need that, so just cover it up. Shake it around to get some air in it. Try to aerate it. Needs a lot of oxygen to get going real good. Shake that up for a minute or so. Then every now and then after that, shake it up. And just to speed things along a little bit, take some ice. Just stick that in some ice water. It'll cool off a lot faster that way. Shake it up every now and then. There we go. Let that sit for a while. Get it chilled off. Try to get it down to room temperature. I'll take my thermometer and check it and see where we're at here in a few minutes. So while that is chilling off over there in the sink, I'm ready for beer number 2, so I just repeat the process on the next bottle of beer. This one's still sitting here. That's warmed up now. Get that lip nice and clean. Heat it up, just the same thing. Pour me a cold one. A little more, there we go. Shake that around. And cover it up to warm up while that is chilling off. Oh yeah. So I'll just take a quick temperature reading on that. Clean up the thermometer probe with that alcohol. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Pop that off of there. See where we're at. It's got to cool off more. It's at 80. It's still going up. About 85 degrees. So it's got a little ways to go. Want it to be about 70 degrees. Be right around room temperature. Then pull it out of there. Aerate it some more, shake it around, cool it off a little faster. So get another check on that temperature. Looking at 70, about 72 degrees, so we're pretty good there. It's about 70 in here. I'll call that good. And pitch that yeast off the bottom of the those 2 bottles of beer. So now all I'm going to do is just take these 2 bottles of beer and put them inside. Take that off. Still don't have any water in here as it was cooling off. Like I said, you don't need it to be sucking the water off of here. And what I'll do is clean that lip off again. And heat that up. Clean this lip off with the alcohol. Heat it up. Heat up that rim of the lip. Shake this beer up. Make sure all the yeast is off the bottom. And just dump that right in there. And do the same thing with this one. Heat it up. Get that all off the bottom. Four more bottles to go and should have a good yeast starter. Now I'll get some water in here. That's sealed off. And I'll repeat that process with 4 more beers. So last night I decided to take one for the team, and I drank 5 of those beers and got them all in here. It does look like it's starting to ferment a little bit. I don't know how this is going to come through, but it is getting some foam coming up in the middle, a little bit on the edges. I haven't seen it bubble, but the ferment lock is pushed all the way to the top. So I just got 1 more beer to go, get that in there. And the plan is to brew beer tomorrow, if that is indeed fermenting enough, if the starter is going good enough to pitch into a whole batch of beer. We'll see what happens. Now I'll just get this last beer poured in there. Shake that around a little more. That all heated up. Wipe the lip off with some alcohol. Shake her up a little bit. For something like this, a stir plate probably would work better. I've just never used a stir plate, never really needed one. It'd work just a little better, keeps it the yeast in suspension. Not necessary. Seems to be working fine. Just clean this up with a little alcohol here. That back on there. That's the last of the 6-pack, so If it's going to work, there we go. See what that looks like tomorrow morning and make my decision on whether I'm going to brew the beer tomorrow or the following week. So the decision has been made. I will be brewing beer tomorrow. It's been about 24 hours since I pitched the yeast in there from that first bottle into the starter. As you can see, it's going great. It just blew another bubble. It's fermenting fine. Good strong yeast starter. A little bit on the bottom. Nice yeast. A little bit of trove and yeast on the bottom there. Things are looking good. It's going to make a great starter for my beer tomorrow morning. So take the yeast. Dump that right in there. I got take the funnel that's been sanitized. Dump this right in there. Active yeast. Shake that up. Get the all the yeast off the bottom. Break loose. Pour that right in there. So there's 17 hours fermentation. It's no blowout yet, but it's I don't know if you can see in there, but it's rocking around pretty good. So that yeast starter and making yeast from the bottom of a 6-pack of bottles of bottle conditioned beer, not a problem at all. So there you go. It's just that easy to go from a 6-pack of bottle conditioned beer, whether it's homemade beer or store-bought beer. As long as it's got the yeast on the bottom, it's probably going to work out pretty well. Goes from a 6-pack of a little bit of yeast on the bottom of each of these bottles, made a yeast starter, actively fermenting 5 gallons of beer. It's just that easy. Might want to give it a try, save you a few bucks, and it's kind of neat to do. Anyway, see you next time inside Homebrewing.